The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio program was originally broadcast on April 19th, 2022.
Aloha and welcome to Business Matters radio show sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Timpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And today we're going to discuss the minimum wage, hot business topics, and highlights of what's still happening this legislative session. We're going to discuss the new concept Maui Brewing Company is doing, recapturing CO2, learn what it takes to achieve top restaurant awards, and changes in operations since COVID-19 guidelines and restrictions have been lifted. And we're going to meet the owner of Kine Paints, here to share her story. But first, I would like to extend a warm welcome to the very busy Senate President Ron Kochi. On September 7th of 2010, Governor Linda Lingle appointed Ronald D. Kochi to complete the term for the vacant 8th, formerly 7th, senatorial district. Since then, Senator Kochi has been elected to serve in his first term as the current senator representing Kauai and Ni'ihau. Senator Kochi secured his current position as president of the Hawaii State Senate on May 5th, 2015. In the past, Senator Kochi also served as the Majority Caucus leader, vice chair of the Committee on Tourism, vice chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, very important committees. He has also served as a member of the Committee on Agriculture, Education, Transportation, and International Affairs. Raised on Kauai's west side, Senator Kochi graduated from Waimea High School in 1975, attended Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, and he is married to the former Joy Tanimotu, and they have two sons, Dan and Egan. Good morning, Senator. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Good morning, Pam.
We have had a busy session. We were just talking about it, and it's winding down now. But one of the hot topics this year has been the minimum wage. And I know it's on the minds of many business owners. And I know we're moving into conference committee and discussions right now. What are your thoughts on where we're at with this bill and the timing of it and the increases?
Well, at this point, the Senate position has been to get to $18 by 2026. The first version of the House draft was to get there by 2030 and have tip credit increase, and it was modified to, have it $18 by 2028 with the tip credit in, and they had the earned income tax credit. We wound up putting the earned income tax credit in a separate bill because we didn't want it to be a casualty if the House and Senate could not agree on the minimum wage. And Senator Taniguchi again revised the House bill that came over to reflect the 2026 date without the tip credit. So we'll see if one, we're going to settle on 26 or 28, and if we can get an agreement, and two, whether the tip credit would be part of the package or not.
Yeah, that tip credit is important for many businesses. I know, not all, but I know that's of great concern. And I know that, the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii has a survey out, and, they're concerned about the timing, given some of the numbers that they've been seeing with their survey. How is the legislature feeling like they've been hearing from the small business community, and do they have concerns about some of the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii's survey studies that show some of the impacts on small businesses?
Yeah, we've been receiving the testimony. We've heard from the small businesses. The three representatives and I meet with a variety of groups before session. One is a group comprised of the Kapa'a Business Association, Lihui Business Association, the West Side Business Association, Kauai Chamber, the Kauai Visitors Bureau. So before we got to session, we had an extensive discussion about the minimum wage. But what I try to remind business people who seem to think that we as legislators come to the Capitol and are tone deaf to what is happening outside. Last year, we gave $750 million to pay off the loan and the interest to the unemployment insurance fund.
Yes.
We had built up, because of the low unemployment rates we had prior to the pandemic, $600 million of reserve funds, and when COVID hit, we blew through the $600 million of reserve funds and needed to borrow another $700 million, and that generated $40 million in interest. And the biggest concern last year is if businesses were then required to pay the new unemployment insurance schedule to replenish the fund, it would have forced many small businesses to close their doors. And we did nothing with the minimum wage last year. And so a tremendous amount of resources were deployed to help all businesses across this state by repaying the fund. Also in trying to deploy some assistance to those that were income challenged. $50 million was committed to the restaurant card program. So while we were helping those in need, it also helped prop up small businesses, and I've heard nothing but rave reviews from the restaurant owners in my district and the impact that the restaurant card had on their businesses. And we are moving a bill through that would eliminate the 2-year look back at the unemployment experience when we set the schedule, and would be flat for the next 8 years to ensure that businesses, big and small, would not have to jump to a much higher schedule in what they would be paying for unemployment insurance contributions to restock the fund. And so really the question that we were being asked is, were we tone deaf to the small people out there, and were we owned by the Chamber of Commerce's throughout the state? Because it seemed to them like all we were doing is helping business with nothing for the individuals who needed help out there. And so, we view in the Senate at least increasing the minimum wage as balancing the package for all of the assistance that we've delivered to business over the last 2 years.
That I do want to absolutely acknowledge that assistance has been tremendous, and that's interesting. It's the first time I've heard somebody say that is the legislature owned by the by the chambers of commerce, and this has been such an interesting time. I know in the past, as we've talked about the minimum wage. Well, before I talk about that, first I just want to say on the UI and the rates, because again we greatly appreciate the funding that was put there so that the rates didn't skyrocket again, because that is a tremendous help to all businesses. That is one of those key pieces of legislation that is going to be a tremendous help and a tremendous help moving forward, and we hope that that works out. The other thing is, it's been a challenging time, but most chambers have been supportive this session. In fact, I think all chambers. I haven't heard of a chamber who hasn't been supportive this session of a minimum wage, and that hasn't always been true for chambers of commerce, especially recognizing that it doesn't hit everyone equally. And many right now have said, they're very able to pay it, and they are paying it, as we kind of shared across the legislature
and
over
I think
forums.
One of the comments, though, that I have been getting from employers is that to recruit quality employees, you need to be well above the 1010 that is the current minimum wage. And, with the new paradigm of COVID, this has really become an employees market, and it's been a tough market for employers who are trying to hire and recruit people. And so they say, well, why do you have to raise it if we're already doing it? And I say, well, why are you objecting to it if you're already doing it? And so, but those comments have also been coming in, whether phone calls, emails, or certainly when I'm back on Kauai, with all the time I spent on the county council and being on TV, I'm pretty recognizable when I walk into a business or a restaurant in particular. And my wife and I try to support the local businesses since I've been employed through the pandemic.
Yeah. And you're right. Many businesses right now are able to pay it. Or, as you point out, the market requires that, or they won't be in business. Yeah. They won't have employees. So this is definitely, this is one of those key points that, and what we're finding, though, I guess where our concern is, as we survey businesses, and some are able to do it, of course, those increased prices get passed on, which then further impacts the living wage as well. But as for where we're seeing the rub is when we look at something like the minimum wage, and this is a really tough thing because we've talked about this back and forth for years, is it doesn't hit all businesses equally. And where it seems to really hurt businesses is our small mom and pops. And, that's where they're most challenged. And we're finding, the survey that was put out is that 58% of businesses said they'd need to reduce staff if the minimum wage increased to $18 by 2026. But 12% said they would have to lay off half of their staff if it went up to $18 by 2026. And 1 in 4 said, at that point, they would have to shut down. And we know these aren't bigger businesses because the bigger businesses are able to absorb more of this. So how do we, it's sort of like expecting our counties to be able to foot some of the bills of the federal government. How do we recognize the size and scale? Is there a way to recognize differences in size and scale?
That's something the negotiators try to look at, but like anything else, if it's employees of 50 or less, then what happens to a business with 51 people, 55 people? They're going to raise the concerns. The other thing is that, the last time we raised the minimum wage, there were a lot of the same kind of concerns raised, and testimony came forward, and the end result was not large amount of businesses closing, and we wound up in a pretty vibrant economy, and we're hopeful with some of the things that we put in the package to help businesses. They aren't in there when they were surveyed, and if they pass, hopefully that would help mitigate the cost of them doing business and make it possible for them to continue to operate and succeed.
Well, we are very hopeful, and we do appreciate that there were a number of bills that would also raise costs. Some of those have died. We do appreciate the UI support. That's been a tremendous help. And you kind of mentioned that bill. And so, I know this is going to be a challenging discussion, so it will keep everybody very busy.
But the timing is pretty good. Right before I got on the radio, I took out my iPad, took a look at Civil Beat, and I saw Lokilani Intermediate as the featured story, and how the students wound up on Tuesday and Thursdays having a snack shop, and they're learning financial literacy. They were using some of the federal money to help stand the store up and teach them, and also give them positive avenues to reconnect with their fellow students after all of the isolation. So I think this is a real lesson in for all of us that we need to start reinventing ourselves coming out of COVID. I think for employers, to not have a hybrid option is going to make it harder to recruit employees.
Yes.
That they're going to be attracted to areas where hybrid is there. And even for the state government, I know Senator De La Cruz has been on, the Human Resources Department for the state to come out with what is going to be your policy. And if we need to have some level of distancing, a lot of our offices are overcrowded. We just put up some partitions, and so to get that hybrid system, in case something else happens in schools, we need to re-image how we deliver our instruction. We're short on substitute teachers, we're short on recruiting teachers, but there may be an ability to deliver curriculum through digital platforms. And if we are going in that direction, I think what's exciting is that you could have Chiefs Kamakaheli Middle School with Lokilani Intermediate School as well as Washington Intermediate School here on Oahu, all taking a Japanese language course at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you'd have enough critical mass between the three intermediate schools to make it possible. But as an individual school, you wouldn't have enough enrollment or the ability to recruit the teacher to make that class possible. And so I think we're really going to open up a lot of educational opportunities for our students across the state.
I absolutely agree, and it's so exciting to see. And I love that analogy. Again, independently it doesn't really work, but collectively it can. And as you know, the Chamber's long been an advocate for having remote testimony as a neighbor island chamber. And that was one of the great things for us. Unfortunately, we have to look at some of the challenges we had and some of the successes, and to see how our legislature has transformed during COVID, how we can now allow remote testimony and allow people to participate who aren't able to fly over. Really tremendous things. And again, on the local Lani Intermediate School, teaching kids about business in small ways and understanding economics is so important. And also, I want to remind everybody, savings. We need to get back. We also learned during the pandemic how important it is to have savings on a personal level and a business level. So
then it was kind of buried at the end of the week with all of the news stories that were going on. But the Senate issued a press statement that we are going to incorporate into our rules the remote participation for testifiers going forward. So that isn't going to be a temporary COVID thing, but it is going to be part of how the Senate will operate going forward. And it's not just recognizing the cost involved in the neighbor island residents to travel, but certainly if you're on the leeward coast here or windward side of Oahu, there's great distances. And then for those who may have some disabilities that don't allow them to easily get into the capital, it works. And then for those who are concerned for their health and may be older or have underlying health conditions and not wanting to be in a crowded conference room. So it works not just for the neighbor island residents, but for others who may be impacted here on Oahu. And so we see that as an important thing to do going forward. And we use some of the federal money available to get the kind of equipment and technology upgrades that had been an impediment to making it happen sooner.
Yes.
And are able now, through this experience, to feel confident that it would be part of our operation going forward.
We are so thrilled for all the reasons you mentioned. Absolutely. It's just one of those things that the technology allows us to do it. And, sometimes with all things, we can be slow to adopt sometimes, but here we are. And it's really tremendous that you're able to do that. Excuse me, I seem to have a frog in my throat going on. There were also bright spots this session. Would you like to share a little bit about some of the bright spots that you saw?
Well, on opening day, I talked about the Maui movement, or ending period poverty, and they've gotten a lot of attention after no traction for 2 years. And while we've done a lot to get connectivity and devices for our students, we found out that half of the young girls surveyed missed school because they did not have the correct feminine hygiene products. They were embarrassed, and so we need them to be in the classroom to take advantage of all of the resources that we're trying to deploy. And so I'm confident that the conferees will come to an agreement and put the $1 million in to ensure that we have products available for free in all of our public schools. And I think that this is something that we need to work with food banks on a broader scale, because we still have young women in the workforce who are making hard choices about paying the rent, buying food, and do you have money left over to ensure that you have the feminine hygiene products you need so that you can go to work and not feel bad. And part of it is to start to normalize the conversation. It's normal bodily function. In fact, even as a guy, if my mother had not been a menstruator, I wouldn't have been born. And for my wife, then I wouldn't have the 2 sons we have together. And so people need to know that it's okay. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. And specifically for Maui, while it sounds like a small thing, we've got fencing for the access deer.
That's
but
huge.
With the drought, we know that the airport was being challenged with deer coming onto the runway, which would have had a significant impact potentially on the visitor industry, especially if there was some kind of accident related to that. And so with Senator Baker, Senator Keith Agaran, Senator DeCoite, they have been briefing us on that. And I know Senator DeCoite, like myself, is an early riser, so we were talking at 6:15 this morning about convening the Department of Agriculture here in my conference room with she and I, as we're talking about the tuberculosis with the cattle and potentially the hogs on Molokai and what impact that might have. And so, those are some of the Maui-specific things. But to the bigger highlights, we're just investing in this good economy into one-time fixes. Like if we're going to have a digital platform for the schools, we need to upgrade the electrical wiring in schools. We need to start doing repair and maintenance, which means that the small subcontractors are going to get work, not just the big general contractors. But we do have larger capital improvement projects that are in there. We're hoping to do a $100 credit for those earning over $100,000 and $300 per individual for those under $100,000, and so hopefully getting $1,200 in aid for a family of 4 earning less than $100,000 are among some of the highlights. And we're waiting to see what the final product looks like, and then you'll have a great report coming from your Maui delegation as we say goodbye to Senator Baker, who's retiring. And I've had a chance to work with Senator Baker in her different capacities as a House member, obviously Senator, and when she was on working at Maui County when I was on the county council. So she'll be missed, and we will see who Maui decides to send in as her replacement. But fortunately, with Senator DeCoite, Senator Keith Agaran, there's a lot of experience in the existing delegation.
That is very true, but you're right. For us, that is a huge loss, but of course we wish her well. we appreciate all of her tremendous efforts for many years at the Senate, and she has been such a great champion. And I do also want to thank the Senate and the House for understanding the access deer issues. A population of roughly 67,000 on island, where we keep hearing we need to cull about 10,000 a year just to stay level at that level. So fencing is so important, and you mentioned the airport, which is true, and upcountry is being devastated. Our council member, Yukile Sugimura, has created an access deer task force, and I sit on that task force and have been asked to work on some of the economic side of how do we not only look at how we need to better manage our access deer, but also how we can find ways to benefit in creating different products and benefit economically. So we're seeing them as a resource as well. So we're working on that. But Senate President Kochi, it's always wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your tremendous work. We truly appreciate you.
Real pleasure to get a chance to talk with you again, Pam, and to all of your listeners. And I was pretty confident that you would be quite surprised that in my report that the access deer was going to be in it, just to let you know how effective your Maui delegation has been communicating the message about what's been happening on the ground on Maui.
Thank you. Well, we are very blessed, and we sure appreciate you sharing that with us. And thank you for all that you do. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day. And you're there now, I'm sure. So, how's the weather on Oahu right now?
Sunny.
Sunny, good. All right. We'll have a beautiful day over there on Oahu.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Aloha. All right, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
And we're back. If you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Our next guest is Garrett Marrero, CEO and co-founder of Maui Brewing Company. Since its founding in 2005, Maui Brewing Company has grown to be Hawaii's largest brewery and one of Maui's largest employers. Good morning, Garrett. It's so great to have you on the show with us again.
Good morning, Pam. Nice to be here. Aloha, everyone.
Aloha. So glad to have you. I have been excited to learn that Maui Brewing Company, you've always been a sustainability leader, and you've found ways to incorporate solar very early on. You've built in sustainable measures as you've been building out your brewery. And now you have a new initiative that includes the concept of recapturing CO2. Please tell us how you got into this, how you're recapturing CO2, and what the process involves and what the benefits are.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me today. Always nice to be here, and to talk sustainability is kind of where my inner geek comes out. I love it.
Yes.
The new project is a partnership with a company that is really pioneering technology that allows for the separation of CO2 directly from the air. So where we already do invest in recapturing what we call CO2 recovery, and that is recovering the CO2 that's naturally created during the fermentation process. We're an early adopter of that, especially I think we're the first brewery of our size in the country to do that. That system has certainly helped, especially through the CO2 shortages over the last several years. But also this new one will actually pull it directly out of the air. The technology is kind of crazy, and to describe it is tough, but it's essentially, using heat and a catalyst in order to pull that CO2 from the ambient air.
Wow.
So where there's all the CO2 that we're talking about that's in the environment these days, it's super important to try and, either limit what's going into the environment or see if we can pull it out and use it in another form. So, I like to think that we'll have some of the cleanest air here on Maui and highest oxygen content, if you will, when we put that project to play.
So what is the timing for doing that?
It's up in the air, as ever. Construction, labor shortages even on the manufacturer side for the parts and all the supply chain that is completely broken.
Yes.
I would say 12 to 18 months. That includes the construction for the site work as well as the permitting process as well. So, we're pushing as fast as we can, but I would rather under promise, over deliver.
I'm a big believer of that myself. So when people come and visit Maui Brewing, this is going to be done at your Maui Brewing Company in Kihei?
Yeah, at the Kihei site. The place that we've identified for it is right along Lipoa, where we'll be able to, now with the new building requirements and zoning there, we can use more of our property. I know that sounds funny, but we're previously restricted to certain setbacks that, pretty much eliminated the use of about 30% of the acreage that we bought. So now with the new zoning, we're able to push to the boundaries a little closer, and we're able to put it in alongside the back of the building by those very large stainless steel fermenters that are out there.
Yeah.
And it's not an invasive project. It's not like it's going to be a huge monstrosity out there. It actually will be fairly hidden from the road, given the way that our grade is there. But we're excited to put that in because not only will it help to clean up the air and then pull CO2 out of the environment, but it will also give us much needed supply of CO2, where right now the CO2 in Hawaii comes from the petroleum plant over on Oahu. And so then it's a byproduct of the process that they go through at the refinery. It is, of course, cleaned up and filtered, and there's no effect on the beverage. However, eventually, I'm sure at some point the petroleum plant will either shut down or downsize, and we'll be left with a shortage of CO2 that would have to be shipped from the mainland. And already we pay about 12 times the national average here in Hawaii compared to the mainland. So when we talk about cost of inputs and controlling those costs, this is a win-win in that it's both environmentally sound but also fiscally responsible. And we're hopeful that it'll work to the level that they promise. And if it does, we may even be able to supply the entire island of Maui with clean CO2.
Wow.
Cleanly produced CO2, I should say, versus shipping it in via other vendors. So it's something that can absolutely be beneficial. And again, with more carbon emissions, this is one way to help to counteract that and turn it into a usable input for many of us.
That would be tremendous. We look forward to watching this as it progresses and getting updates along the way because, first of all, it means you don't have to import it in from Oahu and then to be able to share it with others, and clean our air is going to be amazing. So,
and if you think about it, there's no restaurant business that doesn't use CO2, and hotels and draft systems and the hospitals. I mean, the CO2 is used everywhere, not just by the breweries. So, it could be very helpful.
That's awesome. Along the lines of your awesomeness, you have been ranked in the top 25 restaurants by Restaurant Clicks and top 11 by Insider. So, and I was there yesterday. We had a great luncheon at your brewery in Kihei. It's always a joy to be there, and it was fun to see everybody outside playing games. Having a great time with lunch, having some beverages, and then just on your lawn area playing games. But aside from that, what are the attributes that you think your company embodies that have separated you from other restaurants?
Well, I think certainly in this past challenging couple of years with COVID, whether, depending on how far down that rabbit hole you went, I think everybody generally preferred to be outdoors.
Yes.
So I think the Kihei site in particular benefited from that because we have, a good amount of space that was already outdoors. And during COVID, we renovated and kind of revamped that entire space, as adding the lower garden with the synthetic lawn, a lot of tables and umbrellas and lights and all that kind of stuff. So it made it a much more usable space for us. And then this past November, we added the shade sails and those posts outside to create more shade. And we poured a larger concrete pad over some of the grass there, for some reason, like we had so much traffic, it would never stay alive. So whether we resodded it, reseeded it, whatever, it would just always end up dying from the traffic. So we went concrete and created a big outdoor lanai, and it just lends itself so well to the sense of a brew pub. And to me, that is the gathering place for the community, right? Where you have, residents, you have visitors, you have their children, coming together and having a beer. And in my mind, I like to think that that's where we could solve a lot of our world's problems. If more people from different backgrounds get together over a beer,
yes,
you're going to find there's more similarities than differences.
I agree.
But I like the garden too because, it can get a bit much sometimes when kids are just running around like crazy, right? Because sometimes they can be, it scares me because I always think about the liability, right?
Yes.
But when you have parents from different, whether it be, like I said, visitors, residents, wherever, and the kids just, naturally flock together and they're running around, they're playing cornhole, and, they've never met before, but they just found a new friend. And, it's really cool to see the connections that are made. Sunset in that garden is hard to beat, for sure.
Oh, stunning. I wasn't there at that time, but I have been, and you're absolutely right. But to see the adults and kids playing cornhole, it felt like a just such an awesome backyard barbecue. As I was walking up, it just felt like a huge family barbecue. It was wonderful to see, and as always, the food was fantastic, as were the new slushies. I don't know how new they are, but I've been quarantined for a couple of years. But the Pog slushie was really spectacular. So, thank you. I mean, you've created a space, as you say, that is a place where the community loves to gather. So, thank you for that. It was really awesome. Now that
the team does.
Go ahead.
Fantastic. Sorry, I got to shout out to the team.
Yes, absolutely.
As much as the garden's great, if it wasn't for the team, none of that would exist. I mean, our company wouldn't exist without the wonderful teammates that I'm proud to call family, proud to call my team. Culinary side, front of house, back of house, of course, the brewers who, work in a very hot facility, especially come in summer, to make nice cold beer for everybody, and the packaging team. There's not one person at Maui Brewing Company that doesn't make it what it is. And, it's really important to me that not only our team remembers that every day, but that the community knows that, we are all one working towards the goals. And I think that's how we're best able to achieve these accolades, if you will.
Absolutely. And to the team, we are shouting out for you. Big shout out to the whole team at Maui Brewing Company and in every business. Nobody can do it alone. It takes an awesome team. And but clearly you've got a phenomenal team there, and they do an excellent job. And again, I was there yesterday. They do an excellent job. So yeah, great. We want to say mahalo to everybody on the team. One of the big challenges, and you and I have sat in many different meetings as we went through COVID, talking about, where we were at with the mask wearing and vaccine checks and mandates, and how restaurants were, when we went to the Safe Travels program, scrambling to kind of move employees to new places to handle the checking and additional workload, and at a time when everybody was short-staffed. Can you give us a quick update on how things are going now?
Sure. Those are great points. I think only being that we, not only were, but are short-staffed. So we appreciate everyone's patience. I might have taken a bit of a different tone with COVID. I just am not someone who's going to live worried in the day. I got enough to do that about. So I've been traveling for quite a bit, and I've been all over the world in this past, since really November. And it is a universal problem. It's not just America. I would say I've seen it worse in the U.S. and especially Hawaii. But I was just in England and France, and it's the same thing. There's not enough work or not enough labor to meet the demand of the day, especially here when we're seeing tourism return with such vengeance. We just don't have the ability to serve everyone as quickly. So, there's a lot of protocols, a lot of new things that we're putting into place to help to alleviate that demand. But I think it'll deliver a wonderful experience once we have our full plans in place. But I fear for what it means for Hawaii long term in terms of, even on the packaging line, for example, getting to a level that we're at, automating jobs out of existence, that we don't have a choice but to do that. Right. To stay moving in the right direction. And long term, that job just won't be there. Fortunately, we are growing, so on a per barrel basis is what we're talking about, not on a total number. But that is challenging, and I think, as I have been saying for the last 17 years that I've been here, almost 18, workforce housing continues to be the number one issue here, which is driving that. But directly to your question, I'm sorry, things are going well. We could be doing much better. I'm happy to say that our numbers are up across the board, but they aren't up as much as they could be because of those shortages in labor primarily. And I don't want to sound like, woe is me, I could be doing better. It's not about me. It's about the last 2 years of digging a hole that we funded a lot of payroll, a lot of benefits that we weren't required to do. Yes, we had the benefit of PPP, but the way that worked out, it didn't cover everything, and we didn't get full forgiveness, especially on round one. So, we took a lot on the chin because we felt it was the right thing to do for our team. fortunately, with my good friend Russell Adkins, who of course passed in December.
I was so sorry to
our
hear
former
that.
CFO. Thank you. Yeah, he is a very smart man and helped prepare us for something that was coming. Of course, no one could predict the pandemic, but he made it so that we had a nice buffer in order to be able to weather a storm, and that was very much how we got through COVID. So, and we not only got through it, but we thrived.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Well, we are thrilled to hear it, and I thank you also for mentioning the buffer, because this is one of those times, folks, where we always talk about both personally and for your business. It's important to have some savings and a cushion. We never know when things are going to happen, but we can rest assured that somebody was saying the other day that their accountant was saying every sort of decade something comes up. So, it's important to put some savings away. And this is a great time to teach your children that as well. So we want to encourage everybody to do that. But Garrett, you have been a great thought leader in so many different areas, from sustainability to new ways to look at businesses, to through your travels, educating us on what other areas are doing and how we can learn from different examples. I just really want to say mahalo for all that you do, not just in your business, but for our community. You were also the first one to really jump in and start making hand sanitizer, even though, we all know that you got a bit of pushback from the liquor department in a time when we were all trying to be innovative and come up with amazing things. But, the community is tremendously appreciative, and we are as well. And we're thrilled to have you as a chamber member.
Yeah, I'm proud to be there, and I can be a bit of a bull in a china shop at times, but it's I call it passion, and I love what I do, and I love working with my team every day. I like to think that I've never tried to bend or break anything. I've just tried to reform things and bring them into today's world, into the new world economy, so that Hawaii can grow. It hasn't always been easy. I mean, it's cost not only a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but a marriage, and it's self-sacrifice is kind of the number one thing as an entrepreneur, and you put yourself last many, many times, and hopefully one day you get to put yourself first. But that's not the name of the game. I think if you work with your team and don't have people working for you, and you think of it that way, you can achieve a lot more together. And I think creating this cottage industry, if you will, of craft brewing in Hawaii, it's thriving because of some of the rules or the laws that we were able to change to allow a business to thrive instead of be stifled by legislation that had no purpose.
Right.
And that's what I keep fighting for. Freedom.
I hear you. Amen. That is very well said. And I do hope, because you certainly deserve it, and I know you're always there with your team, and I love when you said, it's not people work for you, it's people work together and with you to accomplish amazing goals. So you've done an awesome job. And I do hope, though, you do get some time to rest and relax and and get to put you first.
You'll never hear me complain.
No, I never have. Well, Garrett, I hope you have a beautiful Maui day, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Likewise, and we'll enjoy a sloshy out on the lanai one of these days.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. Take care. All right, folks, if you're just tuning in, that was Garrett Marrero, Maui Brewing Company. This is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And it is my great pleasure to welcome one of our chamber members, who's also a Construction Industry of Maui member, which is a trade council of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. It is Michelle Heller of Kine Paints.
Hi, Pam. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Michelle?
Doing wonderful this morning.
Oh, it is a great morning. Thank you for joining me. I know you're up early all the time, and so this is not early for you.
No, we open at 6 a.m., so yeah, I was up early this morning.
Yeah, so I wanted to share, you've started in August of 2009. You were in the U.S. Navy, moved to Maui. Days after moving to the island, the painting company that your father worked for shut their doors after 20-plus years in business, and you and your father decided to open Kine Painters, LLC, which was an effort to continue servicing the established clientele, but with a new brand. But also, you graduated from UH Maui College in 2015.
Yeah, I graduated in the ABIT program, the Applied Business and Information Technology, in May of 2015.
That is so amazing. And had you ever had, prior to you and your dad just making this great decision to jump in and create a new paint store, had that ever been on your mind, starting a small business on your mind?
I never thought about starting a small business. Really, when we opened my father's paint contracting business, we went to the Business Action Center over at the Maui Mall, and they helped us with everything. And after we got it running, I realized I needed a little more help to make things more efficient. So that's why I started going to the college and got into the ABIT program. And then actually, this store, the Kine Paints, the Benjamin Moore store, was my capstone for the ABIT program. So I had all the mentors of the college helping me with my financials, my business plan, all my ideas, and it was extremely helpful in opening the business. So I graduated in May 2015, and then we opened the store in November 2015.
Wow.
Quick after school.
I was going to say, well, that was a swift ramp up, but the launch of a great business.
Definitely. It's been really good. We're in our 6th year of business now, and some people are still finding out we're here, but we have a lot of loyal customers that come in, and so we really appreciate all the local business we get here as well.
And you have a pretty sizable store off of Alamaha.
Yeah, we're at 250 Alamaha. We have 5,000 square feet, so it's about 3,000 square feet of showroom. So we have plenty of sundries for all your painting projects and room to meet with clients or friends and look at colors. So very spacious area.
That when it comes to painting, that's my favorite thing, is looking at the colors.
Most people's worst part of the picking is the color.
Well, that's interesting. That seems odd to me. I think that's so much fun. But I can get a sense of why that might be, because when there's so many glorious colors to choose from, it can be a little overwhelming, I think.
It definitely could be overwhelming, but Benjamin Moore is working on, lessening their carbon footprint, and they've actually changed the color samples that you can buy from an 8-ounce color sample to a 2-ounce color sample.
Nice.
And they're only $5.99, so if you wanted to try, 10, 15 colors, you don't have to feel bad about it, because it's only 2 ounces, and they're very inexpensive, so best to check the color before you go with it for your whole house.
Absolutely. Both my mom, a few years back, both of us were painting our houses. And so that's exactly what we did. Bought a lot of little paint samples and then started just putting them all across, the wall and seeing what we thought.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So tell people a little bit about the products and the services that you offer.
So we sell exclusively Benjamin Moore products. We sell anything from paint to the rollers, plastic, paper. We service contractors, homeowners, architects, and designers. Benjamin Moore is one of the favorites for architects and designers, so you'll see it specified on a lot of projects. So we help them with choosing colors and writing up specification documents, telling people, what products to use, how to properly prepare their service. So that's something we provide in the store, is a lot of knowledge. So
yes.
With my dad being a paint contractor, me being in the paint industry since 2009, we have a lot of knowledge here about paint. So if you have any question, we're here to help you. We're not just here to sell you paint.
And folks, I just want to say, when you go there, Michelle and her team are so knowledgeable. They, don't hesitate to ask them questions. Don't hesitate to get your ideas and work with them and share your ideas with them, because they can really be of great service. And so tell us a little bit about Benjamin Moore paint and what makes Benjamin Moore unique in this space.
So the biggest difference with Benjamin Moore compared to any other manufacturer is Benjamin Moore actually manufactures and creates every single ingredient that goes into their can of paint. So they have full quality control from start to finish. And then also every Benjamin Moore store in the country is independently owned. So they're not a franchise, they're not corporate run, they're owned by small families. For instance, we're a small family business, myself and my father. we don't pay royalties to Benjamin Moore or anything. We really just have a relationship with them where they see kind of what our ethics are and what we want to do for the community, and they realize, they'd be a good fit to sell our product. So it's really an interview process we go through with them rather than a franchise setup, which is really nice because it keeps the money local.
Right.
When you shop local here, you truly are shopping local. The money's not going off to corporate world.
Right. Well, and then excuse me, this frog has been with me this morning. But in so many businesses now, and especially with a lot of bigger companies moving over, there are a lot of franchises. But that's really nice to know that you own your company and that you're representing their paints. And I love that you said it's more of a relationship, right? The money stays here, but we have this great relationship. And I can tell, and I've had in other meetings that you and I've been in, and as you've discussed it, the pride that you feel, not only in your company, but in their products.
Exactly. My whole life savings, my whole life is in this business, and
yes.
And I really believe in their products. I believe it's a good product. It's something that when I sell it, I mean, I use it in my own home. I would recommend it to anybody. And really, this business, I'm hoping it can be a multi-generational business. I have a 3-year-old son that loves to come in and shake paint and roll the dolly around the store. So I really believe in this and think that it could stay here a long time on Maui, and people do see the quality when they use it.
Absolutely. And you've got all the different tools and all the finishing products everybody would need.
Absolutely, everything. No need to go to the big box stores. Just come in and see us.
Well, on that note, tell everybody where they can find you and on social media and your website.
Yeah, so we're at 250 Alamaha Street in Kahului, Unit N3, and you can find us online. Our website is benjaminmooremaui.com. We're also on Instagram under Maui Paint Store, and also you can find us on Facebook at just the Kine Paints.
Oh, awesome. Well, Michelle, it has been just such a great pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about the Kine Paints. We want to encourage everybody, visit them on 250 Alamaha.
All right, thanks, Pam. Have a great day.
You too. Aloha.
Bye.
Folks, that's the show goes quick every week. So again, that's the end of our show today, but want to thank you for joining us for Business Matters, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Tumpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day.